Good Monday afternoon. Jerry Miller, welcome to the I Love CVille Show. We're live in Charlottesville, the Commonwealth, the country, and the world on the I Love CVille Network. We're presented by Ting, Crazy Fast Internet, Interstate Pest and Service Companies, and Dr. Scott Wagner Chiropractic and Sports Medicine. We will get to them in a matter of moments, guys. The YMCA has announced that they're going to do some pods for schooling, and they're doing this with an eye on equity in education. I have that story for you. I love what the YMCA is doing. How about JMU with their reopening plans? A letter over the weekend sent to parents and students, which we have. We're going to welcome the students and then analyze the letter, including only 8 days of quarantine before coming to JMU and a waiver that students are going to have to sign that absolves Madison University of any legal exposure. That story coming up for you on the I Love CVille Show. We have, in the last 3 days, 3 individuals in our town have said they're going to launch their own media companies. So last week, it was a media desert, especially as the Daily Progress is failing with its parent company, Lee Enterprises, stripping the Daily Progress of all its valuable parts as if it was a stolen car on Market Street at a strip shop, guys. We have that story for you, the rise of media outlets as a business in Charlottesville. The future of movie theaters are on my brain. When are we going to go back to a movie theater? When will we feel comfortable going back in one? What happens when you have to sit 6 feet away from somebody in a movie theater? Is the future of movie theaters bleak? Yes, it looks like it quite is. And Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson buys a football league and the future of the Atlantic Coast Conference from a pigskin standpoint. You can say we're locked and loaded on the I Love CVille Show. Give it a like and a share on any of these Facebook pages as we have fun today. Keith Smith is going to join us in about 20 minutes on the show. I'm very excited for him. We're live on 12 pages. We're live now on Instagram. Get ready, guys, as we add LinkedIn. The network is expanding its viewership as we now undoubtedly the top watch platform in Charlottesville and Central Virginia. First, let's give some love to a new sponsor, Ting and Crazy Fast Internet. We have an opportunity for you to save $280. This is the most affordable you will ever get fiber internet in Charlottesville or Central Virginia. Do it through the link that we have on screen. ilovecville.ting.com. ilovecville.ting.com. Save $280, a free month and free installation on fiber internet as we head into a fall where your kids are going to be learning from home. Crazy fast internet from Ting. And how about Interstate Pest and Service Companies and the good Dr. Scott Wagner Chiropractic and Sports Medicine? Interstate, 4 generations of family behind it. They are making Charlottesville a better place. Interstate Pest and Service Companies, a home's best friend. And Dr. Wagner changing people's lives through sports medicine, physical therapy, and chiropractic care. Judah Wickhauer, let's run headlines. Let's start with the YMCA. Let's get that on screen. The Brooks Family YMCA to hold remote learning centers during the school year. Props, kudos, love to the Brooks Family YMCA and to the team running the YMCA. A new program will help elementary age kids during the virtual school year. 90 students from kindergarten through 5th grade in the city of Charlottesville and in Albemarle County will be able to sign up for the new remote learning center. The YMCA will have a 15-to-1, only a 15-to-1 ratio between students and teachers. They're going to hire teachers, the YMCA, and staff from the school system, and these teachers and staff will be able to assist campers at the YMCA as they learn virtually with some supervision from actual teachers and what is the 2020 version of a classroom setting. How about this story for positive news? Charlottesville and Central Virginia. I love everything about this, and I would expect other entities like the YMCA, other entities maybe like the ACC, Phil Wendell's outfit, other entities like private clubs and neighborhoods to step up and do the same. Folks, the YMCA, the first one that I have heard of that's come out on the market and said, we're going to welcome 90 kids from the city of Charlottesville and from Albemarle County from a kindergarten to 5th grade setting. And those 90 kids are going to come to the YMCA where we have awesome internet, where we have space for social distancing, where we have space for students and teachers to stay 6 feet apart, where we have air conditioning in a state-of-the-art facility. Okay? The YMCA is bridging social inequities and closing the educational gap by offering 90 students in the city in Albemarle County a 15-to-1 student-teacher ratio by hiring teachers from the school system. They are hiring teachers from the school system to the YMCA. This is a pod on steroids. And folks, here's the cause and effect. I expect many other pods like this to happen. I would not be surprised if ACC does something like this as well. The ACC business model of members coming in to use a gym is a little shaky right now, and I know because I'm there 5 days a week seeing what's happening at the downtown location. There ain't that many people there. What I can see a Phil Wendell and an ACAC doing, however, is welcoming grades or students by grade to their vast amount of real estate around Charlottesville. Location on Pantops, location downtown, location on Albemarle Square, location in Crozet, location at Four Seasons. ACAC and Phil Wendell could create a school system within their business model, within their gymnasiums. They have awesome internet. They already have staff on hand that's cleaning the gym top to bottom. What they're missing is a lot of members using the gym equipment. I'm there 5 days a week at downtown. I don't see a lot of people. Okay? So maybe the next one we see come to fruition, the next pod on steroids, could be an ACAC. Follow that closely. Props and kudos to the YMCA. I certainly expect neighborhoods to start creating pods at their clubhouses, at their clubs as well. I'm hearing rumblings about this, including my neighborhood. I live in eastern Albemarle County in the Keswick area. Keeping potentially the club open longer hours, longer days into the year, like a pool type of setting, to have education happen outside in a pool deck situation under covered verandas. This is going to happen more and more and more. Write it down. Props to the Brooks Family YMCA for being the first to wave the flag and saying, we're pivoting our business model. We are pivoting our business model, and we're going to open up the YMCA to 90 students to help close the educational gap that virtual learning is creating. The next headline, please, Judah, comes from James Madison University. JMU announced over the weekend on July 31st a letter and the communication we obtained. It's on screen now. This letter was sent to students, parents, and families over the weekend about their reopening. A couple things immediately concerned me about this letter. The first concern, students before they return to Harrisonburg are only required to isolate for 8 days before returning to campus. They have to quarantine or self-isolate for 8 days before returning to Harrisonburg. I'm surprised by 8 days. I thought that was light. I thought that was a short window. Then again, the tests take about a week or so to turn over, so maybe they're like, look, 8 days is all you can do. So maybe that's the concept. We're seeing the turnaround for the test results for COVID happening in 7 to 8 days. Maybe they're saying, look, 7 to 8 days is all we can realistically do because it takes about a week to get the results. Another thing that stood out to me and jumped off the page, JMU is going to require its students to sign a waiver. And this waiver pretty much absolves James Madison University of any responsibility at all for COVID-19 and students in Harrisonburg. So they clearly are saying there's risk, there's exposure here. Students, before you can come to grounds, before you can even enroll in classes online, we need your waiver, your John Hancocked on a document that our lawyers have vetted, and this document clears the institution of any exposure that may come from attracting and asking students to come back to Harrisonburg where they could be exposed to a virus of generational proportions. So those are the two things that jumped out to me. Only 8 days of quarantining, and secondly, all students have to sign a waiver, pretty much clearing JMU of any risk. Interesting. It's funny, man. It's funny because each university has its own regulations. For instance, Liberty is not requiring quarantining or test results before showing up on campus at Liberty University. JMU is asking for a quarantine of 8 days and also a waiver signed to clear the university of all risk. So everyone has its own nuances, and they're all slightly different. We'll compare and contrast them on the I Love CVille show. The next headline comes from local news. And how about this, guys? Sean Tubbs, previously of Charlottesville Tomorrow, and Judah, do you have Sean Tubbs' Twitter? You do have it on screen. That's beautiful. Judah Wickower, our director. Sean Tubbs has quit his job, and someone tag Sean Tubbs here, has quit his job at the Piedmont Environmental Council. And Sean Tubbs is previously a reporter for Charlottesville Tomorrow, one of the best land use reporters, zoning and housing reporters in Charlottesville and in Central Virginia. I truly believe that. Sean Tubbs has quit his job at a nonprofit. He was formerly a reporter for Charlottesville Tomorrow, CVilleTomorrow.org online, and he said, I'm going into business for myself. I'm going to go into the Community Investment Collaborative. I'm going to start an LLC, and I'm going to get into the news business. So last week, we had a news desert. And what I mean by a news desert, for a town that is as robust, as intelligent, as dynamic, and as innovative as the city of UVA, as the city of Charlottesville, as Central Virginia, we have a lack of news outlets covering all the innovation and all the dynamic people in our community. I used to work for the Daily Progress. It was my first job at a UVA. I was the youngest editor in the history of the Daily Progress. When I finished working there, I won 4 Virginia Press Association awards for my writing. Okay? I literally quit the Daily Progress because they offered me a promotion. And the promotion went basically like this. Jerry, you're doing a hell of a job here. You get a promotion. This is what your new title is going to be. Here are your new business cards. Oh, by the way, we're not giving you any more money, and we ask you to do more work than what you were doing before. Yes, the promotion is name only, but look at these really sweet business cards that you're getting. And I was like, the heck was this? I'm out of here. Peace out. I know my net worth. Here's the unfortunate aspect. The new owner of the Daily Progress is a company by the name of Lee Enterprises. And Lee Enterprises is stripping the Daily Progress of its most valuable parts. The Progress is almost like a stolen car. And right now that stolen car has gone to a chop shop. And at the chop shop, the folks working the chop shop are taking the leather seats out. They're taking the computerized navigation system out. They're taking the rims and the new tires off. They're taking the hood ornament off, and they're reselling them and they're repurposing them. Lee Enterprises is stripping its talent, its employees, trying to replace them with rookies or not hire the position at all. What's happening is reporters are leaving, are quitting, or they're being asked to do more with less. Advertisers are seeing the Progress slip, and the money is leaving from an advertising standpoint from the newspaper. When's the last time you've picked it up? It's about as thin as a couple of pages of notebook paper. Sean Tubbs has seen it. David McNair has seen it. David McNair, formerly a reporter for The Hook. Both Sean Tubbs and David McNair have now launched media outlets for business, as a business, to cover news in the area. David McNair's got a headline. You can get that on screen, Judah. That was in one of the emails I sent you. Give me the thumbs up when that's on there. Rob Schilling is also getting into the business of reporting news as an individual. So, folks, last week I was begging. 2 weeks ago, I was begging the staff writers at the Daily Progress to quit their jobs and to form their own company, and I told them we would pay them $7.95 a month to read their fabulous news articles. They said, no. We are committed to saving local journalism here as staff writers at the Daily Progress. Since me pleading for them to quit, 2 other reporters have now launched their own companies covering the same news that the Daily Progress is supposed to cover. There are too many chefs in the kitchen, and not all chefs will come out survived. Some will be burnt, some will succeed and create award-winning food. Others will be left with the shorthand of the spatula and left taking out the trash of the back end of the kitchen. Folks, time will tell, but the cream will rise to the top. We now have 3 new media outlets, David McNair, Sean Tubbs, and Rob Schilling, covering news, just like the Daily Progress and the CVille Weekly do. It's getting interesting here in Charlottesville and Central Virginia. Before we get to Keith Smith, guys, how about Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson? Did you see this headline? Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson has purchased, boys and girls, the XFL. Okay, so he's purchased the XFL. This is nuts. And Judah, you're missing a headline about movie theaters on the PTI theme, which I sent over to you. So Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson spent $15 million for the XFL. This was a football league that went bankrupt soon after it started. This was the football league that was started by Vince McMahon of the WWE in wrestling. Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson got his start as a wrestler under Vince McMahon's company and Vince McMahon's brand. It's come full circle. Now, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, who owns a farm in Orange County, Virginia, I see him around town from time to time. He is now the owner, along with his business partner and a venture capital firm, Redbird Capital Partners. Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson spent $15 million approximately to buy the XFL out of bankruptcy. We will see what this guy does. He's going to be the face of the league, The Rock will be, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, just like he's the face of all his other business endeavors. And he's going to try to take a league that is otherwise in shambles and huff new life into the league as if it was a body under CPR at an operating room table. This I find exhilarating. He's got a proven track record of successful business, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. He's got a bona fide personal brand to the point where a lot of folks are encouraging Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson to run for president. Yes, President of the United States of America. And I honestly think if he made a push for this office, he would be a force to reckon with. Besides the point, we have a movie mogul, we have a media mogul, we have a businessman. One of the most recognizable actors in the world has now purchased the XFL for $15 million out of bankruptcy, with the idea the league will come back to life in 2021 in a bubble type of setting. I'm going to follow this story closely. Before we get to Keith Smith, how about the headline for movie theaters on screen, please, Judah Wickhauer. This headline comes from Magic Johnson in movie theaters. And Magic has straight up said, guys, there is no way movie theaters are going to survive this. And you're asking, why Magic Johnson's opinion? Well, this dude used to own movie theaters. In fact, in 1996, Magic Johnson, one of the best basketball players of all time, a fabulous point guard for the Los Angeles Lakers, a world champion, a man that is overcoming HIV or managing it at best as he possibly could. This guy, just an incredible human being, Magic Johnson. In 1996, he formed a partnership with Sony Entertainment. And Magic Johnson put up his own money in a 50-50 split with Sony Entertainment, and they opened up movie theaters during the Rodney King, Los Angeles Police, LA riots. And Magic and Sony put movie theaters into high-risk neighborhoods where crime is more prevalent than others. And he said, I'm going to open up movie theaters across the country in high-risk neighborhoods like LA, like Crenshaw, like certain aspects of Atlanta. And he did that. And he had tremendous success, even putting up his own paper in a 50-50 JV joint venture with Sony Entertainment. Well, folks, today Magic Johnson on record straight up saying, I do not see how movie theaters are going to survive the pandemic. And I bring it to a localized level. On Friday, we had Nick Ward on the program. He's a real estate investment trust analyst. He analyzes REITs for a living for what he does professionally. And he straight up asked this question. Jerry, think about all the movie theater locations in Charlottesville and in Central Virginia. Think about all the movie theater locations in the Commonwealth and across America. Okay? If movie theaters do not return, what could possibly, as a business, go into this massive square footprint from a business standpoint? It is a tremendous cause for concern. Because you look at Stonefield, or you look at Fifth Street Station, in Stonefield and 5th Street Station, just off the top of my head, are built around movie theaters as anchor tenants. So if these movie theaters struggle to survive, if these movie theaters struggle to stay alive, if these movie theaters don't have the support from customers to keep their doors open, what is going to happen to that massive square footage that makes up a movie theater in Stonefield and in 5th Street Station? And take it a step further. If you're a local tenant in either Stonefield or 5th Street Station, you now, as your lease comes up for renewal, and folks, we have 27 tenants. We do more revenue in real estate rental income than our advertising agency, than this network. Okay? We're a real estate business first. I'm going to cut straight to the chase now. That's literally what we are now. Okay? So if I was in the Stonefield or 5th Street location as tenants, and as my lease came for renewal, I would literally be going to management and saying, this movie theater is a sham, or it's a shadow of its former self. My lease was predicated on foot traffic at this movie theater in Stonefield, and it's not there. As a result, you cut my rent by 15, 25%, or I'm not renewing. Okay? If the movie theater does not drive the foot traffic it's supposed to do, you as a tenant must leverage that against the landlord, because the shopping center does not have the value proposition you were promised. Watch what happens to movie theaters across the globe and certainly across the country, in Charlottesville and Central Virginia, because the neighbors in the shopping centers, their respective businesses, are undoubtedly tied to the success of the movie theater. We're live on 12 Facebook pages. We're live on LinkedIn. We're live on Twitter. Give it a like. Give it a share. We'll get to the comments coming in. Neil Williamson tagged Sean Tubbs in this feed, and evidently Sean said, "What did I do?" Sean, I was giving you props. You're launching a media outlet. And Sean, you are not alone. In the last week, 3 individuals have gone on record and said they're forming a new media company as a business. Sean Tubbs, put Sean's Twitter page up again, making the announcement. Props and kudos to you, Sean. David McNair has announced the same thing, the award-winning journalist from The Hook. And now Rob Schilling, okay? So 10 days ago, we had a media desert. We had a Daily Progress news department that was being stripped of its parts, almost as if it was a stolen Mercedes from Ivy that was taken to a chop shop to get stripped down. That's what's happening at the newsroom at the Daily Progress. 2 weeks ago, I was begging somebody to launch a media company that could fill the niche. And folks, 3 have stepped up and done it. Schilling, Tubbs, and McNair. We will follow them very closely on the I Love CVille Network. This story is coming in. This comment's coming in from Grace. Jerry, I love the show. I watch your show, and this is how I get my news for Charlottesville and Central Virginia. I'd also like to give props to the YMCA for doing what they're doing for education. We were wondering with these homeschool pods what this was going to do for a diversity with school across Charlottesville. At least the YMCA is giving 90 kids a chance to learn in a classroom setting, the same kids that wouldn't have this chance if it wasn't for them. So please thank the Brooks Family YMCA, from our family to their family. Thank you for that comment. We love that comment right there. Let's go to Keith Smith, Judah Wickhauer. We're going to welcome the distinguished gentleman to the program. Keith Smith is the star of Real Talk, an insider's guide to real estate, life, and the pursuit of happiness. It airs Tuesdays at 10:15 a.m. on the I Love CVille Network and Fridays at 10:15 a.m. on the I Love CVille Network, and it's presented by the Yes Team Realtors. It's a fabulous program, one of our favorites on this network. Real Talk with Keith Smith, Tuesdays and Fridays at 10:15 a.m. Judah, let's get the Ting headline on screen if we could before we welcome Keith Smith. Ting has offered us a unique opportunity. Any viewer of this network, you can save $280 on fiber internet. You will not get a more affordable price for Ting out there. First month's free and free installation through ilovecville.ting.com. And I heard from the folks over there, the order's already coming in. You need fiber for the school year, guys, in the fall. Do it now. Do it now. Do it now. Keith Smith's on the line, Judah Wickhauer. We'll welcome the distinguished gentleman to the program. Good afternoon. You look rather tan since you've returned from the beach. Keith Smith, how are you?
We did. I'm trying to get good looking like you, man.
Well,
working on it.
You're exceeding. You're exceeding. What's good with you, man? What's good in the world?
Hey, man, congratulations on the Ting sponsorship. That's an outstanding company to work in, particularly as you guys were talking about pods and all this fun stuff and this education, which is desperately needed. High-speed internet is an absolute must. I can tell you in our world, I just got a phone call for a piece of property. We talked about it on the show about Waynesboro is an oncoming project, upcoming market. So we're actually going to be looking at some property, and the first thing out of their wish list was, does it have high-speed internet? So, good. Congratulations.
Thank you. And anyone that's watching the program, I get this question all the time. How do we start a show like yours? Well, the first thing to do is just start it and do it. The second thing is you're not going to run a consistent show unless you have fiber internet backing up your live stream. And that's just a fact. So Keith Smith, a week in the books after we chatted with you. In fact, we chatted with you on Friday morning, and I was pleasantly surprised with how well the show went. Give us a snapshot.
It went so well that when I go to Seattle next week, we're going to do another one remotely. Just a little heads up.
I love it. I thought it went so well, too. Give us a snapshot, my friend, with 4 firms, including your buddy Quentin Beckham now watching, on the real estate market, Keith Smith.
Yeah, so we were gone for a week and did a bunch of transactions. Surprisingly, we did 3 commercial transactions. I did, which is unusual. So we're starting to see the commercial market, at least from my perspective, loosen up a little bit. I do want to go back to a couple of things. I was listening to your show. If it's okay with you,
please.
On some of your headlines. I want to give a shout out to Sean Tubbs. I'm in this world, and I know I work land planning very well. Been doing it for decades. He's a sharp guy and understands it, and I wish him only the best of luck. If anybody can get good information out there about land planning, which affects us all, it's Sean. So I just wanted to give him a quick kudos.
I love that. And Sean's watching now. Sean, I echo that. I miss your reporting, legitimately and genuinely miss what you were doing at Charlottesville tomorrow. And frankly, no one has filled the niche since you've stepped up and done that, Sean Tubbs. I genuinely mean that. All right, Keith Smith, back to you, my friend.
Theaters.
Yeah.
Interesting. Just a little bit of a note on that conversation. Some of those leases in Fifth Street and all that stuff may be 10-year leases, so they may be a long time before they have to renew. So this could be an interesting time for that type of commercial space. I agree with you 100%. I don't see movie theaters coming back the way they used to. Matter of fact, when we were down on the Eastern Shore, there was we've been going there for several decades. There was a bunch of boarded up drive-in movie theaters. Guess what are alive again? Drive-in movie theaters. Right?
It makes
that
sense.
In churches.
Let me throw this to you. This is a tough question for you, Keith. You sign a lease. And this is just hypothetical chatter, okay? Hypothetical chatter. You sign a lease in one of these big-time Class A shopping centers, and as part of the lease, you're shown the value of having an anchor tenant like a movie theater. If that movie theater anchor tenant is not in operation or it's a shadow of its former self, how does that potentially impact that lease?
Well, it doesn't necessarily impact the lease. It impacts your business owner, because that is the driver, right? That's people are driving there to Alamo, right? Because that's what we're talking about. And when they go to Alamo, they're going to stop here. There's a couple other anchor thing. Wegmans is the big driver, next to the movie theater. But the folks that open all those restaurants around the movie theater, that's what they're going there for. Yon and I would do that. We'd go catch a movie, catch a dinner, or dinner in a movie. But it's pretty interesting. This drive-in theater thing is doing a huge insurgent, and a shout out to Chris Henry and the Dairy Central folks. They're doing a drive-in setup in their parking lot, which is a pretty neat concept.
Could a tenant, I'm just hypothesizing with you, could a current tenant leverage the inactivity of the movie theater or the lack of future stability of the movie theater to wiggle out of certain terms of an active lease? Or are those leases, from your experience, so buttoned up that they've literally thought of everything, that even something like this, the movie theater not operating at full capacity, will have no leverage opportunity for the other tenants in the shopping centers?
So it's the second, not the first. Okay. But it's a different twist. Nobody expected that to happen.
Right.
Right. So nobody expected COVID-19. Nobody. So when they negotiated it and built these particular leases, they were built around an anchor tenant. And if that anchor tenant isn't there any longer, under normal circumstances, if Alamo failed, then Keith and Jerry step in and bring in another movie theater. The fact that there's no movie theaters coming in there, it's not probably contemplated in the lease. It's going to be a tricky thing. I can assure you it's going to involve a ton of lawyers, because the landlords are going to want to let people out, and the tenants are going to need to renegotiate. But if there's no provisions in the contract or the lease for that, that's going to be interesting. And that kind of brings up some topics that I want to talk about in the future on Real Talk. I think we're going to have to start bringing in some commercial experts. I dabble in it enough to get myself into trouble, but we're going to have to bring some experts in and what that exactly means. And each list is a little different, as you well know.
Keith Smith, the star of Real Talk, Tuesdays and Fridays, 10:15 a.m. on the I Love CVille network. My friend, a snapshot on the market. What are you seeing over the last week or so?
Yeah, and it's just going nuts. I was just on the phone with Bill Tucker. He's constantly having the best month they ever had. It's climbing up. I do want to reduce some numbers from Friday. I promised you I would get that. So what I did is I looked at the last quarter at Lake Monticello. I think when I took a snapshot on it, it was pretty close. But I did the second quarter of 20 versus the second quarter of 19, and there was a $20,000 increase in price. So it was roughly a 9% growth in value between 19 and 20. So it's growing out here big time.
This man, I'm going to brag on you a little bit. This man and his beautiful better half, his beautiful 7/8, just had their best July in company history. And this man literally called it that we were going to be in for a V-shaped recovery with the real estate market. People are like, what? V-shaped recovery? What? And he's like, no. It's good here. We have buyers. We have people that did not dip into the equity of their home. This is not 2008. Keith Smith, it's going according to what you forecasted so far.
So I have two notes down. One was we called it in March, and you called it 10 days ago, about bringing in some other media firms. So, look, all I'm doing is reading the data and putting 1 + 1 = 2. I'm a Marine. So I do want to, if you don't mind, if you can just give me 30 more seconds.
Please.
I do want to do a different news item. It's not as uplifting. I just want to give a shout out to my 8 Marines that were killed this weekend, along with 1 sailor at this accident out in California. Semper Fi Marines. God bless their parents and the souls of these jarheads. So I just wanted to get that out there.
How does that, Keith? Can you put in perspective? Once a Marine, always a Marine, for us?
Yeah, I'm about ready to tear up. So it's hard to. It's hard to explain. I don't really understand what it's like to be a journalist. Unless you're a Marine, it's just hard to understand. And Bellamy, Brown, and a couple of other Marines that are watching this, they understand that. It's a brotherhood, a sisterhood, and no matter how old you are, what time you're in, or what if you're 100 years old or 19 years old, like these young Marines that were killed or passed away, you're always a Marine, man. It's a brotherhood. It's hard to explain. Unless you've been there, done that, it's just hard to explain. But if you're one, you know it.
You're doing a good job explaining it, though. We're halfway through Q3, which is crazy. We're in August of 2020. That is so crazy. I feel like a month in COVID is like a year in regular time. But guys, we're pushing to the back end of 2020. Halfway through the third quarter of the year, Keith, what are you seeing with numbers locally in the real estate market?
I don't see any slowdown. I think we're in desperate need of inventory. There's buyers out there. We're going to talk a little bit about this more tomorrow. Based on your intuition, we're going to start talking a little bit more about Waynesboro and some of the surrounding areas. Without a doubt, you're starting to see this migration, which we've been talking about. It's been going on for a couple of years. This migration out of the centers of the cities out to the countryside or suburbia, whatever you want to call it. I think my biggest fear, and we talked about this on Friday, is, and you advise your friends this all the time, and you're doing a very good job of it. 3% mortgage rate is not normal, right? And I think people think it's normal, and I think people actually think it's going to go lower, and it may, but I don't think it will. So now's the time to do this. You couldn't ask for a better time to buy or sell. So reach out for a trusted advisor, and they'll point you in the right direction.
My friends are legitimately looking hard at Waynesboro and the Tree Streets. I mean, looking hard. In fact, one of my friends the other day was saying even Stanton. This is a reflection of price points. Would you think, Keith?
Yeah, without a doubt, it's price points and availability, right? So so that's we're going to dig into that a little bit tomorrow. We're going to kind of focus a little bit on the Waynesboro and Stanton, just kind of you and I. We don't have a guest coming in tomorrow, and I got Michael Guthrie coming in to talk about hopefully Carr's second quarter report comes out, and enough time for him to talk about it on Friday when we're heading out to Seattle to see our youngest daughter and new son-in-law. But yeah, we're going to spend some time tomorrow about that. I think this is something that we need to really start taking a look at. I think the only thing that can really impact that kind of drive out, if fuel starts going back to $4 a gallon, right? At the moment, that's don't look like in the horizon, and we've done a bunch of transactions over there, so we'll dig into that a little bit tomorrow.
What do you think? This question's coming in. What do you think about vulnerability in the commercial sector and in commercial shopping centers? The question is, Jerry, ask your guest as a follow-up for the show you did on Friday if he thinks some of these shopping centers in our area have vulnerability and exposure because of COVID. That's a good question, Keith.
They do, but one of the notes that I wrote down to myself about the movie theater thing, the COVID has impacted, but Netflix I think has a bigger impact on it, right? Most folks are got their 72-inch television, their surround sound. Now that everybody's getting this high-speed internet, through Ting or whoever your provider is, I think that's impacting that also. Kind of, but. It's interesting, this reminds me a lot of the 70s, when there was these retail deserts, right? These strip malls, late 70s, early 80s, where there were these strip malls. I mean, God forbid, how about the conversation about Fashion Square Mall, right? I mean, what the God's holy name is going to happen with that? And I think the only answer, in my opinion, is just the developer bulldoze the darn
The land
thing.
is more valuable than the actual structure, isn't it?
Oh, without doubt. Hand over fist. And there's been all kinds of rumors about UVA buying it, but that's nothing but rumors. But yeah, you're going to start seeing a big change in these type of environments. And actually, I think you're going to start seeing things going back to what I call mom and pop stores.
Ooh, tell me about that.
Yeah, I think buyers, or I know Yona and I like that. I much prefer to go to a local business and a small business where I can walk in and see Jerry, right? Or Judah, where instead of these big box stores, because if I want something big box, I just go on my Amazon and it gets delivered in 24 hours. Right? So I think, and I'm not an expert by this in any stretch of the imagination, but I'm just kind of playing it from the heart. And I just think you're going to start seeing some of this stuff migrating. Food stores will stay, small mom and pop stores, specialty stores, boutique stores where, you can't get it on Amazon. And, I just don't see movie theaters coming back, but, I could be wrong.
I know. I think you're 100% right. I think it's something that we got to follow. So many of the shopping centers now built around a movie theater and even like a gym. In the shopping center. And folks, those are operating at half speed and may not come back at the same force that they used to have. All right, Keith, you crushed it. We'll be watching tomorrow.
I'm sorry, man. I took up too much of your time.
No, you didn't. Any final word for everybody?
Just love on one another like we do all the time. Just be kind to one another, and we will get through this together, and just keep the 8 Marines and 1 sailor's families in your hearts and thoughts and prayers.
Amen. Amen. So in studio tomorrow, we see you.
Well, you will see me tomorrow. Friday, we're flying out to Seattle and spend some time with our new son-in-law. So we're excited about that. And you'll see me, I think, the following Friday, I think.
Okay.
But we'll touch base.
I'm looking forward to it. Good to see you, pal.
See you tomorrow,
All right,
guys.
Keith
Thanks.
Smith. Love
Bye-bye.
Keith Smith. Guys, Real Talk airs Tuesdays and Fridays at 10:15 a.m. on the I Love CVille network. That's tomorrow at 10:15 a.m. Really enjoyed the program we do with Keith, the dynamic we have. The guy just really has his pulse on a lot of different things, and he's approachable with how he presents his content. He does it in a way that is approachable and welcoming as opposed to highbrow. And I think that's why Keith has been so successful as an agent, because he's relatable. Keith is the dude that you want to hang out with at the bar and just BS with for a couple of hours and have a good time before you check out. I mean, he's just an approachable, likable guy. Real Talk Tuesdays and Fridays at 10:15 a.m. on the I Love CVille network. So James Watson leaves this comment. Remember, we were talking about how the YMCA is creating a pod, and you can put that back on screen, that headline. I love this. 90 kids from the city of Charlottesville or Albemarle County can go to the YMCA. Now, you got to apply. Okay, can go to the YMCA where they can learn virtually inside the YMCA. The YMCA is also going to hire teachers to watch and educate these kids. It is incredibly impressive. They are literally knocking down the walls of inequity that is created in education when done virtually. They're trying to knock those walls down and bridge the gap. Well, folks, James Watson says ACAC is indeed conducting an ed support program. I'll email you the link or the PDF. Please do, James Watson. I truly think about this, okay? Go on a one shot to me. If you own Violent Crown movie theater in 5th Street Station, okay, let's do some crystal ball projections, let's scuttlebutt, let's chitter chatter, let's just have a conversation of possibilities. I would like to see this idea get traction. Are you ready? Okay? If you own the movie theater in 5th Street Shopping Center, 5th Street Station, or the movie theater in Stonefield, you have a massive structure. This massive structure has Wi-Fi, has high-speed internet. These massive structures have restaurants on site, okay? You have one at 5th Street Station at the Alamo Draft House. It's called the Glasses Half Full Pub. You have one in Stonefield, okay? So if these massive structures are failing from a show movie on screen, get people to pay for a ticket and go inside and watch it standpoint, and they are failing, Netflix and Amazon, and now Peacock is a new streaming service. These streaming services are eating the lunches and then some of in-person movie theater watching at a brick and mortar. If you own these movie theaters, you have a unique opportunity to potentially pivot your model. Your movie theater can become a virtual learning environment for so many public school kids across the country. In your movie theater, you could have one entire theater allocated to the 1st grade, one entire theater allocated to the 2nd grade, one entire theater allocated to the 3rd grade, the 4th grade, the 5th grade. Each of these movie theaters has like 10 or 12 individual theaters within the whole macro movie theater structure itself. So open up the individual movie theaters to virtual learning. These individual movie theaters are much larger than a classroom. As a result, you could easily get 20 or 25 kids in a movie theater sitting at a desk, using the Wi-Fi provided by the movie theater, eating a lunch provided by the Glasses Half Full Tavern at Alamo Draft House, having their lunch delivered to them. They can sit 20 freaking feet apart, maybe 30 feet apart, maybe 50 feet apart by their colleagues. These movie theaters are so big. Pivot the model, allow individual theaters to become the classrooms themselves, and then help create or bridge the gap of inequalities created through virtual education. God, that's a really freaking good idea. That literally just came to me right now. That is a freaking brilliant idea. The movie theaters have food providers and restaurants on site. They have high-speed and wireless internet. They have massive classrooms, the theaters, certainly compared to a classroom at Jackson Via from a size standpoint. They have common area. They have bathroom. That is a good idea. That is a good idea. The movie theaters that are failing can help bridge the gap of educational inequalities created through virtual learning. That is something that should be considered. What is the alternative option, Stonefield? What is the alternative option, Regal? What is the alternative option, Alamo? The alternative option is you can create a laser tag center in your movie theater. People can go shoot guns and play laser tag. Or you could just close your doors. Or you can operate at 50% capacity. Dude, the more I'm thinking about this, if I was the owner of Alamo, and someone tagged the owner of Alamo. The owner of Alamo, guys, is a movie theater owner that owns a few Alamo franchises. We've done a little bit of business with him. He could keep half of his theaters open for movies if he wants to continue showing flicks, and he could take the other theaters and pivot them to a virtual learning environment, where you could then strike a deal with the public school system or strike a deal with parents and say, this could be your classroom. It's X amount of dollars. Help us create and bridge the educational inequalities that come with virtual learning. Not a bad idea right there. Not a bad idea right there. Give the show a like and a share on any of the Facebook pages you're watching. A couple more headlines I want to get to, Judah, before we close the show. How about the future of ACC football? We have more details now. ACC football, we know it's going to be 10 conference games plus 1 out-of-conference game for football. They're going to try to start the season, folks, in September. So right around the corner. The 11-game schedule will start the week of September 7th to 12th. The ACC is going to use a single division for 2020. So all the teams in one division as opposed to 2 divisions, the Coastal and the Atlantic. Notre Dame is going to play a full 10-game schedule within the ACC. This could be the early stage conversations. It's not even early. These conversations have been happening. This could be the proof of performance of having Notre Dame go from an independent football program to a member of the ACC right now. So this is very, very interesting. The out-of-conference game that UVA plays has to be an in-state opponent because the game has to happen in Virginia. So each ACC school has to play their out-of-conference game within their respective state to help COVID spread. Here's what we don't know yet. What we don't know is fans in the stadium, if so, at what capacity. So we don't know if folks can go to Scotty Stadium, if folks can go to Lane Stadium, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. We would like to know that. I've got to imagine the colleges are going to wait as late as possible to make that announcement because they want to minimize as much exposure that could come with COVID and the spread of COVID. So they're tracking the metrics. Okay, so that's extremely important whether or not the fans, even at 50% capacity, will be able to watch football at Scott Stadium or at Lane Stadium in Blacksburg. It's important for the sake of the corner, for restaurants and retail outlets that are tied to the in-person experience. For example, Mincer's on the UVA corner, for example, the Virginian or Biltmore or Trinity or Boylan Heights. They, like all of us, want to know how many fans or are no fans at all going to be present for football. It's important for the wedding category, for these hotel rooms that are still reserved for fans, hotel rooms that otherwise could be opened back up to help drive Q3 and Q4 growth for the wedding industry as they try to get weddings back on market. So let's follow that closely. Regardless, an 11-game schedule for UVA football starting the week of September 7th through the 12th. With Notre Dame an in-conference team now. Wow, 1 division. Wow. Couple more headlines. Jay Huff announces his return to for his senior season to UVA. I love this. I think Jay Huff is a monster waiting to happen. If Jay Huff can get in the weight room and add a little more upper body strength, he is a unicorn. He is a 7'1", 7'2" man with long arms that can stroke a jumper from downtown, that can post up, that can block shots, that can rebound, and at times he plays with a mean and nasty streak, and I love it. Jay Huff, if he can put a little bit more weight on his body, I think he could become a focal point of Tony Bennett's offense his senior season, and that's really going to improve his draft stock. I'm excited for basketball. There's nothing I like watching more than Kihei Clark and Jay Huff and this UVA men's basketball team and Tony Bennett, one of our favorite coaches of all time. Welcome back to Charlottesville. Thank you for staying, Jay Huff, for your senior year. That makes us very, very, very excited. Today was a good show. We're so grateful for you guys watching us on today's program. We encourage you to get the best internet possible, and get that link on screen again, Judah. Guys, you literally, through ilovecville.ting.com. The link is on screen. I'll give it to you for the folks that are listening on Spotify, on Apple Podcasts, and iTunes and don't see the visual. ilovecville.ting.com. This is the best price you can get for crazy fast fiber internet from Ting. Okay? Internet and virtual learning and learning from home are potentially here to stay. The last thing we need is buffering issues when we're trying to learn arithmetic, spelling, history, geography, you name it. Okay? Save $280 through ilovecville.ting.com. The best price that you're going to find for fiber internet out there. Tomorrow, we're going to have Anwar Allen, Judah, your friend. Anwar Allen is going to join us, and he is going to not only spotlight his fabulous shortbread company, but we're going to talk some social injustice that he's seeing from his perspective on tomorrow's program. He is a breath of fresh air. And folks, on Wednesday, Barbara Lundgren's granddaughter, a standout softball player, is going to join us on Wednesday's show. We're going to get the perspective from a senior in high school at Monticello, a standout softball player and student who has aspirations of playing college softball. We're going to ask her what COVID-19 has done to her softball her softball playing over the last 12 months, 6 months or so, in 2020 certainly, how it could influence recruiting, and what athletes have to do now to stand out, especially the athletes that aren't playing like a football or basketball. Okay? A sport like a softball does not have the attention of a football or basketball. So what are folks doing to stand out for recruiters? What are student athletes doing to fulfill their passions of playing high school athletics when it could be removed from them? We'll catch up with the talented softball player on Wednesday on the I Love CVille Show. Thank you so much for joining us. We love connecting with you guys through this platform. Thank you kindly for being a part of the I Love CVille network. We'll see you tomorrow at 12:30.